So whatever this thing is, my name is Jhintro, aka the Legacy Creative, aka the Introverted Socialite, and this is episode 4 of the podcast, and I thank you guys so much for your continued support. All the people listening and leaving reviews, it really leaves an impact. So make sure you tell a friend, because we got a lot of interesting topics coming up this season. But before we get to this episode and our amazing guests that we have over here, first things first, we are going to shout out the sponsor, Good Soil. Good Soil is a streetwear brand for those who are nurturing the infinite within. At the end of the day, all that matters is your foundation and the harvest that grows from it. So if you're down with the vision, head on over to livegoodsoil.com and use discount code WTTI at checkout for free shipping anywhere in the United States. We've got something for every season, so make sure your soil is right with Good Soil. Today's episode will be all about the importance of community spaces, and today's guest is a person who is directly investing in the local culture here in Plainfield. She is a amazing marketing director down at Queen City Coffee Roasters on 200 Court Place. Right?
Correct.
Yeah, there we go. But she's also an amazing writer. She writes some pretty high quality poems and is working on a book right now that will be touching on mental health and healing. Ladies and gentlemen, Melissa Silva.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming out. This is I feel like we always have good conversations in general.
Always.
Anytime we run into each other. So
there's not enough time.
It's never enough time, because you know why? We're both busy and we're always on the go, or we always have something to work on. But like when we get those moments, I feel like it's always insightful, and I feel like we kind of align on a lot of different topics.
100%.
But tell the people a little bit about you, a little of your backstory.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today on this episode. Thank you, Jay, for having me here. A little background is I'm a writer. So I went to school for journalism at Rutgers, and then life kind of took me in a different direction, which was marketing. My first gig, my first career job was in marketing, and then life just took on in that direction. So I was like, wow, I guess I'm doing marketing now as opposed to being a writer full time. But that didn't, stop me from always like writing poetry and journaling. I find that as a form of healing, to journal my thoughts, emotions. 2 years ago, actually, I decided to quit the corporate world. And I was like working in Manhattan, and I thought I was reaching all the goals that I wanted professionally, but inside I was suffering because my creative juices were stomped. And I felt like, my 9 to 5, which really was like a 10 to 10 some days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just didn't get a chance to fully write and express myself, and my soul was yearning that. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to quit my job and move to California. Wow. And just write a book. And that was kind of the goal of my move there. And then there was another move back 2 years later, which was interesting, totally not planned. But pandemic hit, COVID hit, and everything changed, and I want to be closer to fam and friends. So I had to support myself in a different way here. And I decided to, become a part of a marketing team again, but at a smaller business, so that I can still be creative and I can still connect with people in a different way that I couldn't really do when I was in that corporate setting.
So what initially led you to chase marketing? Because from everything you're saying, it sounds like your creative side is a very integral part to your identity. Yeah. So I'm curious to know, I guess, what was the initial step into it and what kept you going through it?
Yeah, so I think my first gig I applied at McGraw-Hill Companies in New York, and it was I got hired, but not in the editorial team as I originally applied for. They thought I would be a better fit in marketing, or they were looking for someone in marketing. And I enjoy marketing. You can still be creative, you can still write, but not to the degree that you would if you were like a journalist, of course. And you're writing about different things, you know, you're writing to promote a product as opposed to like a story about someone. But I enjoyed it enough, and I think there's a lot of fear that goes into that response too, if I'm being honest. I think just fearing going for what I really wanted and kind of sticking to what's safer. And the opportunity was there, and I kept growing in my role and moving into different companies and growing and growing. And I think that's what always like led me to kind of be in take the safer route, until I was like, screw this 9 years later. But it took 9 years. So it's funny how life just kind of like, if you don't make that conscious step to say like, I want to change this, it can just keep going.
Like you said, if it's just a path that you're on and you kind of just ride the current of it, right? You know, I know a lot of people who they're just comfortable in the field that they chose, and it's not necessarily something that they care about or they're passionate about. But because it's something that they've gotten used to, they just keep flowing with it, right?
Yeah.
Even in your recognition of the difference between, you know, marketing for McGraw-Hill versus marketing for, you know, a small business, you know, I think even taking that step is a complete transformation.
Yeah, and I think, you know, as I'm being completely honest, I think I was mentioning to you my shirt that I'm wearing. It says I am undocumented because growing up, I grew up undocumented, and I was able to secure certain roles in larger corporations by the grace of God. And so it was like, at that time, I felt like I have to be safer for that reason too.
Do you think that's something that a lot of undocumented people have to navigate in terms of feeling like they have to kind of restrict themselves to a certain lane? Or
100%. It's really challenging to grow up in a country that you identify as your country, because I came to this country when I was 4 years old, and you know, we had a visa, but it expired. And then we just kept living here. And that's actually something I touch up on my book, right? It's a big part of my life. And just kind of like living in fear of getting caught, living in the shadows. And when you're someone who grew up in this country, you don't feel like you should live in the shadows because this is where you belong. But at the same time, you confront issues like not having the documentation that you need to get like a really good job. So when you do land a really good gig, you kind of try to stick with it, because there's been a lot of doors that have been closed as well because of that reason. And so, you know, it limits you. It limits you with what you choose to do.
It is a plight that I am sympathetic towards, and I understand through, you know, people like you sharing your story.
Right.
But in terms of the smaller details of like what it means to live undocumented, how that affects your ability to secure income, secure housing, and just live life with, you know, liberty and, you know, freedom and all those things that are a part of the American dream. Just knowing once again, the smaller things aren't necessarily things that most people think about. Even advocates who are like, you know, out here in the streets, they don't know the depth of it, you know. So,
100%.
So do you have any, I guess, like maybe an Instagram page or website or anything that people can kind of check out more information?
Sure. You know, I follow a lot of different sources, but United We Dream sticks out to me because I'm a DACA recipient now. So in 2012, Barack Obama released a deferred action. And what that is that people that grew up in this country like myself, they were able to now get a driver's license, work in this country, like legally, everything normal. And just to be able to drive and work without like a fear, like it totally changed my life. But even then, like even when I had that ability to kind of like keep my chin up and say like I'm allowed to be here, I still think that the fear that I had in the beginning, I think like at that point it was still there and it still ran its course.
Gotcha. So it became like a part of your default mindset in general.
Yeah.
Wow. So in terms of, so you started to transition, right? What do you feel led you to, I guess, ultimately make that decision?
So I think one is being done with the corporate world a little bit. And it's tough to say because your mind changes, like your state of mind changes every so often. And like at that moment in my life where I decided to let go of like the corporate world, my interest then became like, how can I serve a community? How can I use the skills that I learned in these corporate settings and bring it to a smaller business? And that was like my decision to make, as opposed to like just continuing a pattern that I was having. I think it was like my mental health. Like if we think about like the real reason why I moved to California to write a book was because of that. Like me working for a small business in marketing, it was a result of kind of like I could still do what I'm passionate about, but now I can and use the skills that I accumulated, but now in a setting that I feel more comfortable in.
And that's a comfort that you found in your current position, working as marketing director for Queen City Coffee Roasters. So what about that environment makes you feel comfortable versus some of the other environments that you might have worked in?
I think that the values that, the owners have as far as bringing the community together and allowing me to have the freedom to come up with new ideas and run with them, that makes me feel comfortable because I look to work for a place that where I can pitch something and follow through with it. And luckily that's been the case so far. So, and then it's exciting because it like really evolves into cooler things. Like a lot of opportunities have come up just from that, including being on your podcast right now.
So in general, I think everybody I've met that works for Queen City has been, on the same wavelength with a lot of things. Like they're all cool people, super supportive. Like even just me as a customer walking in, I can feel the general teamwork and the collaborative energy, and just the positive vibes because I feel like that flows into the environment, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to be a community space, I think that starts with having your team function like a solid community, in terms of like the support and the encouragement and just creating that space for you to be able to, execute some of the ideas that you have. So what led to you kind of coming up with some of the ideas that you have, right? So, for those who don't know, Queen City has a lot of different events that they do every month. And she's the one that plans all of them. So was that like always a part of your role, or was that?
No, it was, it evolved. It is interesting how life is. And that's why I try to say yes a lot to a lot of things. The reason I do that is because it opens doors and experiences that you wouldn't have if you kind of like set in your mind like, oh, this is exactly what I'm supposed to do. And I find that to be more rigid, and even though that's great and organized, I think what I enjoy about my certain role is that I say yes to a lot of things, and it introduces me to experience that I never thought I would have. Like, for example, a conversation with the owner of the shop was the importance of bringing the community together, the importance of Plainfield, the importance of New Jersey, the importance of being proud of where you are. We have a hashtag that we've been using, and it's I am Queen City, right? And so it's like that's a lot of pride. And he was able to transfer that energy towards me, and like he really emphasized on the importance of like bringing people together and having a place where you can hang out and be creative or showcase your talents. And that's why we came up with like, let's have events where we bring the community together. And one of our most popular events is the open mic that we're running. So we run open mics every third Friday of the month, and we encourage a lot of local talent to come showcase their skills, right? So if you are a singer, you're welcome to come. If you are a poet, Josh over here, who, you know, it's been great to even get to know our customers in a different light, right? So I knew you as a videographer and as our customer, but I didn't know your skills in spoken word. And I was so shocked, not shocked, but like I was amazed by it. So I realized like, wow, it's so important to provide a platform for people to be able to come and showcase like what they're working on. And we need more of that in small towns or, you know, cities where like sometimes you can't find that. So I think like that was a big reason why we started open mics at the shop.
And they're honestly, for me, one of the highlights of the month. I think that for the most part, in terms of the culture, it's not as widespread, and it's not as connected as I feel like it should be. So simply by having these type of events, right, you're bringing together local creatives who might not necessarily know each other. That invites room for collaboration. That invites room for them to kind of, you know, work off each other's audiences and, you know, kind of build together. I feel like that's one of the key ingredients in kind of building a community in any town. So that is, for me at least, a critical space. You know, I don't really think that you can have a culture without the creatives, you know. Right. So I want to thank you. Like, it's honestly amazing. But even outside of just creatives, you know, there's plenty of business people that I see coming in to the shop as well, you know. 100%.
Yeah, I think growing up, I grew up in South Plainfield, and I always looked for a coffee shop. You know, I always wanted, I longed for it. I longed for a place where I can go do my homework, especially when I was in school, like in college. You know, my friends, we would meet up at Panera Bread, at Starbucks, and we would camp there for like the entire evening, you know, and get our work done. And it was so much fun. And like, I wish, I was hoping that we bring something like that to Plainfield, you know. And
what was it about the coffee shop that made that a spot, or even like a Panera, or just a random place for like gathering, right?
Yeah.
What aspects of it make them important?
Food. Coffee and food. Now, I think just being able to go somewhere that's not your home, where, you know, it's just a space for you outside of your norm. not in school, not a library, because you have to be quiet, like you can speak freely, you can grab a cup of coffee. Like that is like a big deal, especially for young creatives. And we look to find different places. A lot of my friends are constantly looking for different coffee shops all the time. Even myself, I may work for one, but I like to venture out, see what else is out there. And I really enjoy the space that it gives us. I think like a lot of people have come and even like they start knitting at our spot.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, it's different forms of creativity. We have an art wall that gets changed every month. We ask different local artists to showcase their art on a monthly basis. So it's like, I think as far as Queen City, not only do you have the coffee and you have the space where you can speak to different people and you have the big table where you can gather with your friends, but also like you can look up and see there's art there. And that's important. Like that's inspiring in itself, So yes, growing up, I always looked for a place like that. And it just happens to be that after 10 years in the corporate world, I'm working for a place kind of like similar to what I always wanted to grow up with. That's funny.
It's full circle.
Full circle.
Life is like that, Sometimes you find yourself in a position where, you're doing the things that you always wanted to do, or contributing to things that you always wanted to see.
Yeah.
For me, I think just even like having the art on the walls, that's a direct investment in, local artists, that's exposure that they might not otherwise get. For me personally, if it's not somebody sharing something on their story on Instagram, or, if I'm going to a gallery or something, to have it on display in a local shop that I go to on a regular basis, that for me is amazing, because I've seen some amazing artists work on those walls. So for me, that's like super special, because I don't know how I would know those artists otherwise.
Yeah.
So even investing in like the intimacy, right? Those moments, and having a space where, because like you said, it's somewhere that's not home, and that's someplace you look out. So
it ties into the community that we talk about, right? Like building community. And in this case, yes, it was my closest friends. We would meet up and like work together. Like we would ignore each other sitting next to each other, because we each had to get things done, work to get done. But it was just fun to not be alone doing it and having people around you. And I think that's like the beauty of the coffee shops in general. Like a lot of different people are working on unique projects, and it gives you that opportunity to like either start a conversation with someone you haven't met, or to meet with people that you already are close with, but work together in that setting.
So in terms of, because I feel like you have a lot of insight from your personal experiences to your current position, how can people invest in community spaces in terms of, are there certain things that local businesses can do to, help kind of position themselves as a community space? Are there things that, members of the community can do to invest in those spaces? You have any insights on that level?
As far as like what we can do is show respect to our artists, right? So as far like open mic nights for me have been, they've been like, I was going to say lovely, because everybody's so respectful. Everybody is so encouraging towards one another. And I think that kind of environment is safe. So you create a safe environment for artists to come, and different kinds of artists. And I think that ultimately is what leads them to coming back. I think also, friendliness, and in any place that you go to, even if you're not coming to our open mics and you're just going to our shop, I think what stands out to people is the friendliness from our baristas, and like them remembering like the orders and like remembering your face and making you feel at home, and that like a home away from home. And I think I give them a lot of credit because they create that environment, you know. And so I think having the combination of that, the experience is enhanced, and then you continue to go and you feel better when you're working there.
At least for me, I feel more productive in an environment like that. You know, if I'm working in chaos, like I feel that internally, and then I basically feel like I have to sort through all of that before I can get to, you know, whatever it is I want to work on or produce and like really focus in on it, you know. So having that environment is amazing. But even just in like going back to the open mic, creating that safe space helps to stimulate other people to want to participate in those spaces.
100%. Yeah, no, I've seen that happen actually. People have come in as spectators. They were like, no, I'm not going to participate at all. And then they feel the good vibes, you know, like the people that are performing like yourself. You then became friends with another artist who comes regularly, and then you guys get to know each other. And then when you feel that it's safe and like everybody's having a good time, you feel more comfortable to showcase your own art. And I think that's kind of what has happened. I'm just excited because I feel like it's going to be like a thing, you know, in Plainfield and surrounding towns. And that's what the goal was from the beginning. And it's just nice to see it come to fruition.
So is there anything that you guys are doing in terms of trying to connect with the community at large, outside of just hosting events?
Right.
You know, what else do you guys do in terms of connecting with people, in terms of connecting with other businesses and working with them? You know, what type of stuff do you guys do?
Well, first I'd like to start with a lot of the type of giving back to the community that we do. So the owner of the shop, she's very much involved with like, for example, we did a coat drive, a toy drive for Christmas. And right now we're actually collecting products like hygiene products, toiletries for a different organization in Plainfield. And she's actually a college student from Rutgers that started this initiative where she wanted to give back to her community and provide, you know, the toiletries that we all need. And so we are doing like we have a donation box at our shop, and like people are already being so generous. But I think one of the things that I really do give a lot of credit to the owners is their involvement with giving back to the community. And so that is then featured, or people see that and they want to become a part of it. And, you know, a lot of people want to help, they just don't know how to. And so like when you're, you know, buying your coffee and you see like, oh, they're doing a drive, when next time you go to Target, you might pick up a couple of extra things because you want to give back. So those donations are going strictly to, I believe, the community of Plainfield. So again, it's just like very much connected with the community. Yeah, and I think we have a lot of work ahead of us still. You know, I think there's a lot more that we can be doing and connecting with the Latino community in Plainfield, and just making sure that everybody feels like it's a safe space and they can identify, you know, with what the things that we do.
And I think you guys do a pretty good job. Not to turn this into like a whole commercial, but that's super encouraging because there's a lot of businesses that don't necessarily think, okay, how can I invest back in the community? You know, so even by having the coat drive, that's showing that you care beyond just trying to get people to buy coffee. It's like, no, we want to be legitimate, you know, partners with the community and legitimate community members, you know, so that that investment means the world, and then people see that, and then they come out and then participate in the culture, and then it's kind of like that give and take.
Yeah, I think it's about serving, serving one another in different ways, and I find that to be like our mission in life, really, to serve one another. So I think that ties into it nicely, right? Like giving back to the city of Plainfield.
Y'all are not only creating opportunities for culture to thrive in these community spaces and just having the space in general where it's friendly and, welcoming, but you're also investing back. I think that is like, it's a potentially prototype setting example for a lot of other businesses that might be coming to Plainfield. There's a lot of development happening, a lot of new faces coming in. So just even by kind of sharing how it can be done, how you can create a community space that is a part of the community, that is major. So I think there's definitely a lot of people that'll see this and listen to this, and they'll be able to get some gems from that. So once again, y'all kind of are setting an example in my mind of what new businesses that come to Plainfield should be doing, and how they should approach their community involvement. So outside of the open mic, what is your favorite event that you've done so far?
Salsa night, I think, was really fun. I really enjoyed even seeing some of the artists that came in, like a local artist from North Plainfield. He was like the second guy who performed, and he just blew me away with his talent. So I was just like, wow, like this guy lives in North Plainfield, like on Route 22. Like this, like he needs to be out, he needs to be known. So like it was just kind of interesting to me to see that, and yeah, I think that's fun to show.
I don't know if you knew this, but I'm actually a salsa dancing champion.
Oh, okay.
Fun fact, amateur. It was in college. It wasn't like a real competition, but the point is I still won. Yeah. So I'm excited for whenever the next one is.
Okay, yeah. No, for sure. You are more than welcome to come and show off those skills. I actually started taking some salsa lessons myself. Even though I grew up dancing salsa, it's a very different technique when you do it the right way, and it just flows so much nicer, but it requires you to think about your steps, which growing up, that was something that I never thought. It's like you feel the music, you dance to it, but when you go see competitions, like they're counting stuff, they know what they're doing. They're following the procedures that need to be followed, and it just looks like nice. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast. Once again, Melissa Silva, everybody, marketing director extraordinaire, top tier writer, and salsa dancing champion. Thank you guys.
Absolutely not.
You're getting there.
I'm gonna work towards that goal. Yeah.
Will you ever enter a competition?
If I put in enough work to prepare myself for that, sure. But
all right, well, just
a couple gold lessons in there, I'm still not qualified to make such statement.
Well, there's plenty of time. I'm sure maybe summertime you'll be ready.
I'll try my hardest.
All right, so thank you guys so much for joining us for this conversation. Mel, do you want to plug your social media?
Sure, yeah. Hi. Follow me at I Am Lamps. That is my personal account. And as far as Queen City goes, Queen City Coffee Roasters. That is the handle. Follow us.
And also follow us at WTTI Official on TikTok and Instagram. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or if you want to be a guest, make sure to send us an email at WTTIPOD@gmail.com, and we will get you on. Once again, appreciate your time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Please leave reviews, like, share, comment, subscribe, 5 stars, wherever you see us. This is whatever this thing is, and we will catch you on the next one.